It really wasn't a big deal for me. There wasn't many things that set me back. Um, I was able to golf, race motocross, do karate, a bunch of stuff that never held me back. So I don't really know what it's like to have two eyes. So for me, it's kind of like I have full vision. I didn't know it all. Actually, I started to get headaches, and my parents were telling me to drink some more water. So I kept drinking more water, and it kept hurting more. And then finally, they saw my eye was kind of poking out of my head, and it was sticking out about a half of an inch. So it looked like my eye was just ready to pop out. So at that time, we went down to the doctor, and they said it was a sinus infection. So they drilled into it, and then drilled into a tumor instead of a sinus infection. So they aggravated it, made it grow more, and then after a couple weeks at home, I started getting like a size of a golf ball lump on my neck that just happened overnight. So then they went to St. Mary's and then flew me down to UC Davis. It was rough mentally, or it was rough physically, but I had my dad with me there every night, so I'm lucky he was able to leave work, help me out, and it was rough, all the blood tests, and what sucks is I don't have patience, so doctors, and because UC Davis is a college school, so I would have students come in and ask me my name and birth date over and over all day long. And I'm like, my name's the same, birth date's the same, so I wanted to make a shirt that just had my name and birth date on it so people wouldn't have to ask me anymore. The hardest one, probably when they did the stem cell transplant. I had to sit in a chair like this, and they put needles in that were about the size of your veins, I swear. They were huge needles to where I couldn't flex my arms at all, and I'd have to do that 12 hours a day for 4 days straight. So it was pretty much just all day long of just sitting there. Couldn't go to the bathroom or anything, so that was probably the worst. And then other than that, I think my last round of chemo, where I was in the hospital for 60 days, that one was rough because they gave me the strongest, and I wasn't able to get out of bed and walk to the bathroom on my own. I'd have to use a walker. And then, yeah, probably the fifth round was my toughest because they said I was real close to passing away, to where my breaths were getting shorter, and I was just throwing up nothing because I wasn't eating anything. So they thought it was rough, and they thought I was close, but luckily it just kept moving on. I had a lot of friends playing golf, so they would encourage me to go out and play. I wasn't even going to play my junior and senior year, and then they talked me into it. So I was practicing with them. They helped me get back out there, and did pretty good our junior year, and then senior year we lost some good guys, but still played together as a team and moved on. It set me back for sure. I was pretty upset I didn't get to play my sophomore year because some of my best friends were seniors when I was a sophomore. So that was going to be my last year to play with them, but so that was the biggest bummer. I didn't get to play with some of my good friends, but still had a good team. Still had fun with all the guys, so it was all right. Second time, it was about 11 months after. I think it was June 18th. June 18th, they sent my dad a voicemail saying that I was in remission, and that it was all gone, and I'd go back every 3 to 6 months for checkups. And I was pretty stoked. It's the best feeling ever. Yeah, sometimes, because we know their technology is a lot better than when I was a kid, and that's the reason I got it again, was because a couple dormant cells they weren't able to pinpoint with their technology. So going through puberty and everything sparked a few cells and made the tumor start growing again. So now I know their technology. I mean, it's been 17 years or so, 18 years since my first round, so I know their technology's advanced a lot. So I'm not too worried about it, but whenever I get headaches like I did, I get worried. So it makes me a little more on the cautious side when I feel sick, but I'm pretty trustworthy of Stanford's decisions and protocol.
He's a hard worker. He has a I don't know what the right word is. Maybe a strong personality is a good word. And he's just a good person. I mean, he really is. He changed a little bit, I think, through his ordeal, as far as he got a little more perspective on kind of the big picture type of thing that most people when they're 15, 16, 17, 18 don't have. But yeah, that changed him a little bit, but he's a really good guy, hard worker, like I said. You know, believes in what he believes in, and he'll tell you it too. It's pretty cool characteristic. He came in as a freshman, being one of the best golfers in the area. Really, he was shooting near par all the time as a freshman, and so really good golfer, really well balanced. And this is considering he had already had cancer when he was a baby, and he had no vision in his right eye. No, that's wrong. No vision in his left eye.
Yeah.
Only half vision in his right eye. And so he had that. You know, he had dealt with that his whole life, and he got used to it. But golf-wise, you know, he couldn't see the ball a lot off the tee, which is amazing that he was as good as he was. And so then after you know, his ordeal and whatnot, it took him a long time to get back strong enough to do what he did before, because he's actually a really strong kid, even though he's not that tall. He's very strong. So he had to rely a little bit more on his short game afterwards, and he had to rely a little bit more on, you know, the being a little more technical, because he was so strong before that he could hit the ball a mile. Afterwards, he now is to the point where he's back to his original strength and whatnot. But yeah, he's a good, well-rounded golfer in all aspects of the game. More than any student I've ever had, this is my 15th year teaching and like my 18th year coaching. More than any student I've ever had, he affected me in a way that I never really thought would happen. But I gained so much perspective on kind of what you go through as a high school kid. I mean, you know, I remember what I went through at that time, but I think I had forgotten some of the things that are important to high school kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Anthony lost his whole sophomore year as far as stuff like dating and, you know, little petty social things that is really important to most 15-year-olds. And Anthony sort of taught me by, you know, talking to me and saying, man, these kids are so upset about, you know, this, you know, something like, oh, this guy talked to my girlfriend and I wasn't, you know, didn't really want that, or just little things that he's just like, why do they care about that? And I'm like, the funny thing is, you cared about that last year.
Yeah.
Now you have this perspective where you don't, and you know, he had to grow up fast, you know, and more than I even ever have, more than anybody ever has, where you were faced with maybe not living to see tomorrow. So he gave me a really good perspective on sort of where he was coming from, how important life is, you know. I mean, a lot of people have been affected by that one way or another, but when you're affected by that with somebody you care about who's so young, you know, it really puts things in perspective. And he did that for me with not just what he went through, but his personality and how he dealt with it in such an awesome way. Yeah, I know that it helped him a lot as far as in the healing process, just because, I mean, he told me, you know, but he had that as a goal. Like, his goal was obviously to get well, but his goal was, I want to get back on the golf course. So after the cancer was gone, but he was going through his chemo and his body was deteriorating literally, his goal was, I got to get strong enough to get back on the golf course. I got to get strong enough to walk first, you know, then I got to get strong enough to swing, then I got to get strong enough to walk and swing, you know. And so that really helped with his progression in his healing, especially after the cancer was gone. You know, I mean, I don't think golf helped him survive necessarily. You know, he wanted to, you know, he was strong just because he wanted to survive. But after it was gone and the healing, you know, that's another thing that I learned, is how horrible chemotherapy is and how much it just destroys every part of your body, really. And that healing process, the physical healing of that was really tough. But he had a goal, and it was to get back on the golf course, you know. And so that, I think, helped him in that realm for sure.